Welcome back to United Zone, the channel where football is never just a game, it's a story. And tonight, we have one of the most dramatic, emotional, and controversial stories of this entire Champions League season. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we cover the moments that matter. Now, let's get into it. April 14th, 2026. Madrid, Spain. The Riyadh Air Metropolitano Stadium is electric. Over 68,000 fans packed inside, roaring, waving flags, sensing blood in the water. Atletico de Madrid stood 90 minutes away from the Champions League semifinals, protecting a 2-goal advantage from the first leg. And facing them, a Barcelona side that had been playing some of the most breathtaking, high-pressing, technically brilliant football in all of Europe this season. This was supposed to be the night of the great comeback. Barcelona had done it before. Barcelona believed they could do it again. And for long stretches of this match, they made that belief look completely justified. But football doesn't care about what you deserve. It only cares about what ends up on the scoreboard. And when the final whistle blew at the Metropolitano, Barcelona were out. Eliminated. Gone. 3-2 on aggregate. And the fallout, the fury, the analysis, the heartbreak was only just beginning. Let's set the scene properly, because context matters here. Going into the second leg, Barcelona were staring down a 2-0 deficit from the first match at the Camp Nou. 2 goals. That's a mountain in Champions League football. It means you have to score twice just to force extra time, and you have to do it without conceding a single goal. One Atletico goal, and the dream dies. Barcelona knew this. Hansi Flick knew this. And so from the very first whistle, Barcelona came out with an intensity and a purpose that reminded you just how good this team can be. They pressed high. They moved the ball quickly. Their attacking lines were sharp and creative. According to Flick himself after the match, the first half was, and I'm quoting him directly, fantastic. Barcelona were excellent. They created chances. They had the Atletico defense under genuine pressure. And they scored. Barcelona got the goal they needed, pulling it back to 2-1 on aggregate, meaning they now only needed one more to take the tie to extra time. But here's where the night took a cruel turn. Barcelona, already a team that had suffered red cards over the 2 legs, losing both Pau Cubarsí and Eric Garcia to dismissals, were once again reduced. They had to play with 10 men. In a Champions League quarterfinal, away from home, chasing a goal. Think about what that means. You're pressing high. You need to attack, and suddenly you lose a man. Your shape collapses. Your defensive line pushes back. The space you were controlling suddenly opens up like a wound. And Atletico, a side built by Diego Simeone over years and years of tactical discipline, knows exactly how to exploit that. Barcelona pushed. They gave everything. They created moments. But the second goal, the goal that would have leveled the aggregate and sent 60,000 Atletico fans into panic, never came. Final score, Barcelona win the second leg 2-1, but go out 3-2 on aggregate. The dream is over. Raphinha exploded after match. Now, when you lose a match like this, when you're a player who has watched your team give everything and still fall short, emotions run high. That's understandable. That's football. But what Raphinha said after this match went far beyond normal post-match disappointment. The Brazilian winger, who missed both legs of this tie through injury, was in Madrid watching from the stands. And after the final whistle, he didn't hold back. Not even slightly. Speaking to TNT Sports Brazil, Raphinha came out with a statement that immediately sent shockwaves through European football. He said, and I'll read this carefully because every word matters. For me, we were robbed. 4 words. Blunt, explosive, unambiguous. But he didn't stop there. I don't want to talk about the refereeing, he said, and then immediately talked about the refereeing. But we played extremely well. They committed I don't know how many fouls, and the referee didn't even pull out a single yellow card against them. He then went even further, raising the stakes with a comment that many people found remarkable. He said, I'd really like to understand the secret behind this fear that haunts these people at the thought of Barca winning. He's suggesting, right there, that referees are afraid to let Barcelona win, that there is some kind of psychological block, some systemic bias, working against his club in European competition. That is an extraordinary allegation. And in the cold light of day, UEFA will almost certainly take notice. Because here's the thing, UEFA has rules about this. Players and coaches are not permitted to publicly criticize match officials in a way that implies corruption or systematic unfairness. Neymar once faced sanctions for doing exactly this after PSG were eliminated from the Champions League. According to Mundo Deportivo, Raphinha could now face similar punishment. And that's before we even get to what happened at the Metropolitano itself. The zone cameras caught Raphinha at the end of the match, turning toward the Atletico fans in the stadium, 60,000 people who were celebrating, and telling them directly, "You're going home in the next round." Bold, defiant, inflammatory. The Atletico crowd, as you can imagine, did not take that calmly. The mood turned ugly. Raphinha was in the middle of it. It was the image of a man who had not accepted the result, who was not ready to walk away quietly, who wanted the last word even in defeat. You can admire that fire. You can question the judgment, but you cannot ignore the passion. Hansi Flick speaks. While Raphinha was making headlines in the mixed zone, Barcelona's head coach Hansi Flick took a very different approach. Flick, calm, measured, the opposite of Raphinha's volcanic energy, stood in front of the press and delivered a statement that was proud, honest, and forward-looking all at once. "I'm proud of the team and how we played," he said. "Over the two legs, I think we deserved a place in the semifinals." Now, that is a significant comment. The manager of Barcelona is saying openly that his team deserved to go through. That's not quite saying we were robbed the way Raphinha did, but it's not far from it either. Flick spoke about the quality of the performance. He pointed out that his side had to play with 10 men and still competed at the highest level. "We were fantastic in the first half, but obviously we have to score more goals," he admitted. "We played really well, and we had to play with 10 men. The team were excellent." And then he said something that every Barcelona fan needed to hear. Something that was both an acknowledgement of pain and a promise of what comes next. Despite being knocked out, we have to keep playing like this. There are a lot of disappointed people, and that's normal. Winning the Champions League is really important, and I think we are on the way to that. There's room for improvement, and that's what we have to do. He also spoke about the youth of this Barcelona squad, a squad that, for all its brilliance, is still finding its identity at the very highest level of European competition. I value what I have seen. It's clear we did not have much luck, but that's the way it is, and we have to accept that. We have a young team, and they will get better. It's good to talk about what they have done, and we have to be proud of it. And he ended with a line that will stay with Barcelona fans. 5 words, simple and powerful. "We are disappointed, but we will be back." That is the statement of a manager who has not lost belief. A manager who sees this defeat not as a ceiling, but as a stepping stone. Flick immediately pivoted to the league title, saying Barcelona want to win La Liga as soon as possible. And you could hear in his voice that the hurt of this night will be channeled into fuel. Act 4. Thierry Henry drops the hard truth. Now, while Raphinha was raging and Flick was dignified, there was a third voice that cut through all of it, and it was perhaps the most important voice of the night. Thierry Henry, former Arsenal legend, former Barcelona player, one of the smartest football analysts alive today. And speaking on CBS Sports, Henry didn't want to talk about the referee. He wanted to talk about the real problem. And the real problem, according to Henry, is structural. This Barca desperately needs top-level defenders, he said. We can talk about the referee all night, but we also have to do self-criticism, and here there are many things to improve, and they must do it. Henry then delivered what might be the most brutally honest assessment of Barcelona's European struggles in years. Playing with a defensive line forward in these big European games, with this type of defensive approach, everything is complicated. I've been saying it for 2 years. This Barca offers opportunities to the opponent even when they dominate, and so it's very difficult to get through the knockout rounds. Let that sink in. Henry is saying Barcelona, even when they're the better team, even when they're dominating, leave themselves exposed. Their high defensive line, their aggressive pressing shape, creates vulnerability. And at this level, against teams with the quality and tactical intelligence of Atletico de Madrid, that vulnerability gets punished. But he didn't stop there. Henry looked further ahead and issued what felt like a warning to the Barcelona board. We can't aspire to stay at this level without first-class stability. I'm sorry, but this team desperately needs elite center backs next season. If you don't have the stamina or agility to cover that space, you're exposing yourself to a real nightmare. And then the line that truly cut to the heart of it all. This is not just a bad night. It is a structural problem that needs an immediate solution. Not a bad night, a structural problem. Think about what Henry is really saying here. He's not talking about one referee. He's not talking about one red card. He's talking about the architecture of this Barcelona team, the bones underneath the beautiful football, and saying that those bones are not strong enough to carry them to Champions League glory. The red cards to Cubarsí and Eric Garcia weren't accidents. They were symptoms. They were the inevitable consequence of a team asking its center backs to defend in positions that elite defenders struggle to maintain. And Henry's message is simple. Fix it, or keep getting eliminated at the same stage. Act 5, the bigger picture. So where does this leave Barcelona? On one hand, there is genuine reason for optimism. Hansi Flick has built something real at this club. The football they play, when it works, is some of the most exciting, dynamic, technically brilliant football in the world. Players like Pedri, Lamine Yamal, Dani Olmo, Ferran Torres. This is a team with extraordinary talent. A team that genuinely competed with Atletico over 2 legs and came desperately close to going through. And they're young. That matters. These players will be better next season. They will have learned from this pain. But on the other hand, the concerns Henry raised are real. You cannot keep asking elite center backs to defend at the edge of their defensive ability in knockout European football and expect different results. The red cards, the fragile defensive moments, the exposure on the counter. These things will keep happening until Barcelona fix what's underneath. The summer transfer window becomes absolutely critical. Barcelona need to invest in the kind of center back that can anchor a Champions League winning side. Not just play attractive football, but absorb pressure, command space, and provide the defensive stability that separates good European teams from great ones. And then there's the Raphinha situation. The Brazilian will almost certainly face a UEFA disciplinary process. Whether that results in a ban, a fine, or a formal warning, it creates an unwanted distraction. Raphinha is one of Barcelona's best players. His fire and passion are part of what makes him special. But channeling that fire into productive anger rather than explosive allegations is something he'll need to manage better going forward. Barcelona are out of the Champions League. That is the reality. And for a club of their ambition and history, that reality hurts. But there is a difference between a club that is declining and a club that is building. And everything Hansi Flick said last night, the pride, the honesty, the refusal to catastrophize, suggests that Barcelona are the latter. They will be back. Flick promised it. And if they do the right things this summer, if they add the defensive quality that Henry identified, if they channel the lessons of this defeat into growth, then next season's Champions League could look very different. For now, Atletico de Madrid march on to the semifinals, and Barcelona go home, hurting, angry, and hungry for more. That is football. That is the Champions League. And that is why we love this game. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It genuinely means the world to us. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Barcelona were robbed? Do you agree with Thierry Henry's analysis? Let us know. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.